So let me move on to where we think Russia is going. And I say that because you wrote a book on Putin. And, you know,
we write all the fun characters.
You do. And I wonder at the time that you were writing that, because clearly, I mean, you know, your view of Trump has been fairly consistent over the course of the last 4 years. I'm wondering if your view of Putin has been very different over the course of the past, say, 15.
I think it's been very consistent. If you go back, we were there for Putin's first term, first 4 years in office. Yeah. And I think if you look back, you see the through lines from when he was starting to today. Now, I don't think we would have necessarily said then he would invade other countries per se, but we knew that he was not some modernizer, not some westernizer, the way a lot of people in Washington thought or hoped he was. That he was, in fact, a KGB guy who wanted to restore central power, at the very least, if not the old borders of the Soviet Union. I think what you see today is very much the logical outcome of what we saw in those 4 years.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, you know, I think with both Putin and Trump, they're very different characters, but, you know, a similar rule applies, which is when somebody tells you who they are, you should listen. And, you know, when we were in Russia, preparing to come back to the United States, and this was early in Putin's tenure, what did he say? He said the breakup of the Soviet Union is the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century,
yeah,
a century filled with more than its share of catastrophes. And this was an incredibly revealing moment. It suggested that he was unsatisfied with the post-Cold War peace, that he would do whatever he could, given his capacities at the time, to revise that, what he saw as defeat for Russia and the Soviet Union. And he's basically, that's what he's done.
Now, right now, we are in an environment where people are getting increasingly concerned about where this is all heading. People ask me, what's the off-ramp? Can you even talk about an off-ramp? But you can talk about trying to stabilize the situation. We're not even at that point yet.
Honestly, I find this off-ramp phrasing to be completely triggering of me. You know,
I didn't mean to.
No. But you know. It's not you. It's not you.
But I did.
How many
times,
Ian? How many times have you had U.S. government officials in the last 15 years talk to you with very, you know, great seriousness about, you know, the various off-ramp proposals that they were going to offer to Vladimir Putin to get him to stop invading Georgia, to get him to stop annexing Crimea, to get him to stop intervening in Syria? Have you ever known Vladimir Putin to be a big fan of American-created off-ramps?
No, not particularly.
No.
Particularly, no.
And a lot of people were focused on when Joe Biden said, you know, Armageddon. The thing that really worried me about Joe Biden's comments were that he used this phrase off-ramp, because that suggests to me that he is thinking about proposing something to Vladimir Putin that it's hard to imagine Vladimir Putin accepting.
Biden saying that this is the most dangerous time. This is the closest we are to nuclear war. You know, nuclear war. Yeah. I mean, something that really scared us when we were young. Yeah. And we all remember the day after. Right. I had nightmares for months after that, since 1962. Yeah. I don't think most Americans, I think one of the reasons that Armageddon is a big deal is because most Americans were not ready to be propelled back into that reality. Do you think that's where we are right now?
Well, I think you have to take it seriously, right? In other words, there's a lot of reason to believe that Putin is just blustering. He tends to talk about nuclear weapons at times when he is weak, when he has had a setback of some sort. So it's his way of reestablishing dominance in a sort of Trumpian way in the international stage. Pay attention to me, I'm strong, don't think I'm weak. It doesn't mean he's necessarily preparing to do it. Intelligence people would tell you they haven't seen any signs of moving of assets or resources that would indicate that. But having said that, you can't assume that. What if you're wrong? What if that assumption is wrong? When somebody tells you, as Susan says, that they're thinking about using nuclear weapons, you ought to take that seriously. So that's when you hear a president say Armageddon. Yeah, it's alarmist language, but if you're not taking it seriously, then we're not doing it right.